All right, so we have a beautiful black goddess here with her black-owned business. Explain who you are and what your business is.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Harmony, and I am representing today two businesses. The T-shirt you see me wearing, Vegan Groupie, is a business that I just recently started this year that provided a way for me to share merchandise with other vegans and non-vegans alike, just to be able to have a way to connect and talk about veganism, to identify one another. And the picture is pretty awesome. This picture was taken at the Apollo Theater in Harlem, New York. And although we're not sure who these guys are or who took the photo, I loved the fact that they were Asiatic, that they clearly were having an amazing time. And it went exactly with the idea and energy behind me starting Vegan Groupie. But also today, you guys are in for a treat because I will be cooking for you. I just started another business that's very close to my heart called Moor Vegan Pasta. And as a Moorish American, I feel extremely passionate about sharing Moorish American dishes that are vegan and healthy with my community, with my peers, and with the world, really. So it's sort of a grand opening energy that I'm doing here by sort of sharing it with you and becoming more visible so that people can find me and participate more in learning about Moorish American food as it relates to pasta and sort of what the connection is between pasta and the Moors.
Wow, that's two businesses. That's two businesses. That's very tough. I'm not too educated in what it means to be a Moor, but you did say that you are a vegan yourself.
Yes.
Was it you being a Moor that had to do with that, or what exactly got you into deciding to be a vegan?
Well, being Moorish American is my birthright, so I was born Moorish American.
Absolutely.
But as a
Absolutely.
part of how I honor my foremothers and forefathers, my spirit speaks to me, my ancestors speak to me, and so when I went on my vegan journey over 13 years ago, I knew that there was something more to it than just, wanting to be healthy or, wanting to be in shape or losing weight. And as I did more research and I started to delve into it from a spiritual space, I recognized that this was something that was ancient, this practice of honoring animals, honoring the planet, cooking foods that are from the earth. So it just made sense. And I think me being the spiritual person that I am, and also being Moorish American, that the two just go hand in hand. And it's another reason why I'm so excited about meshing the two together and really showcasing them as one. Because, like I said, being Moorish American is my birthright, but also being vegan is a part of how my ancestors lived, and I'm honoring that in this modern day and time.
Yes, we should not eat our friends.
Exactly.
So, how do you tie? Because, like I said, I'm not the most educated in what it means to be a Moor.
Sure.
What is the ties between being a Moor and our African ancestors and our African lineage?
That's a great question. So, for us as Moorish Americans, meaning that we are descendants of Moroccans, right? The ancient Moroccans, known as the Moors, but we were born in America, so we're Moorish Americans.
Okay.
The Moors traveled all over the world, but the specific Moors that you and I, as Moorish Americans, are related to, and that our lineage and our history tie us back to, they really occupied and came out of the northwest and southwest portion of Africa. So when we look at African history, a lot of times we wonder in school, like, why weren't we taught about the Moors? Like, why wasn't that something that we all learned? And that's a great question, and it really sort of speaks to the deficit in our educational system that
Absolutely.
It's lacking. So a part of being Moorish American is being yourself. And I know that sounds simple, but it's not if you don't know how to be yourself, right? And a big part of that is understanding nationality.
Right.
And your nationality is a part of who you are. Like I said, it gives you connection to your birthright, and it also teaches you who your ancestors were. So it's always exciting for me when I meet people and they're like, well, I'm Black or I'm African American, I'm Ethiopian, and they don't recognize, they haven't been taught, they don't know yet that those were labels given to us during slavery,
Right.
Before we were given those labels, we were Moors, and so I think it's a beautiful opportunity to have this conversation with people and to bring it up and to discuss it in such a way that it allows them to open their minds and to delve deeper into their identity, because your birthright and your nationality are tied to your identity, and if you know who you are, then it's not difficult for you to figure out, well, who your ancestors are. And once you know who your ancestors are, you get to learn about how did they live, what was their religion of choice, in this case, Islamism is what we practice as a whole, and so that makes us Muslims, by nature. But we don't know that, we're raised to believe that there's a bunch of different religions attached to us and they all come through Islam. So that's another beautiful way to bring together sort of who you are, is to recognize that we all sort of have a connection, but specifically those of us who were given those specific slave labels, during that specific period of time, we are the Moorish Americans living here in America today. And it's important that we find each other, that we connect with one another, that we begin to learn who we are. And once we do that, we also become connected to our principles, which is even more important to just sort of this whole message. Yes, I'm vegan. Yes, I'm Moorish American, but why is that important? Well, because I have principles: love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Those are our 5 principles. They are the most important principles, and you can take those anywhere with you. Anywhere in the world, they will be welcomed. So again, once you recognize who you are, then you can make bigger and more meaningful decisions about your life, right? What you eat, how you dress, how you speak, how you carry yourself. Your character is extremely important. People should be able to recognize that you're more, not only because of your swag and how you carry yourself, but because you are an example to everyone else.
Right. They feel it before they even get to see
Absolutely.
it. You touched on a good topic, where it's not taught in our education system where we come from,
Right.
as Moorish Americans. I like that. I like to say personally African descendants.
Okay.
How did you find that connection? Because there's a lot of young kids who grow up in this system who will not have that connection at the start, and they will need to find it within their path. So what's ways that you found it within your path that they could find that way? How would someone find their path towards finding out their history?
Absolutely. Great question. For me, and I feel like the honest answer is really, you have to be on a journey. You have to be looking for it. It doesn't necessarily drop out of the sky and bump you on the head. You have to be at a place in your life where you recognize that this is information that you're seeking, that your heart is seeking, that your mind is seeking. There's something that happens within you, and that there's different stages in our life when we begin to seek truth and seek, more about our history, and we become more curious and more invested in knowing who we are. And sometimes it comes through experiences. Maybe we go through something, and that's what makes us want to say, well, who am I really, and who are my people? Because if I knew that, I might feel stronger in this particular situation. Other times it is creating family, and just wanting to be able to teach your family and to be accurate in your information. We say right and exact. We want to be right and exact about the information that we're teaching our children. So sometimes that'll cause us as parents to want to go on a journey. As individuals though, and as young people, if we don't have a mentor, if we don't have a family member, I didn't have members of my family who grew up and, taught me that I was Moorish American. I didn't find out until I was older. However, it was because I was open. So when I met someone who told me hey, did you know you were Moorish American? It wasn't hard for me to, to fathom that that's probably true, because why don't we have a nationality, And once you get to that key element where you're seeking who you are and you figure out that nationality is sort of the precipice for your identity, then you begin to want to ask the right questions, and your line of questioning will cause you to go in certain directions, and you'll hear answers that resonate with you, and then you may hear answers that don't resonate with you. And then when you hear the answers that are the truth speaks to all of us. So there's no translation needed, you don't have to overthink it. It immediately sets in, it's a part of our DNA to recognize and to understand truth and to download it. So I would say for young people, the more that they search, they'll find it. And one of the beautiful things about spirituality is that once you are seeking, it's not difficult to find, because our ideas about who our higher power is or who God is, those all become relevant questions in our searching. So once you're searching, God reveals him or herself to you. That's sort of the beauty in all of it, is no matter what path you're taking, there's only one God, right? And so he or she manifests themselves in many different ways, and we see them represented in all things. But on your journey, you'll begin to see it. You'll begin to feel the awakening happening within you. You'll begin to sort of hear and taste and sense things differently. It'll just be happening. It's not something you have to force. So for young people, I always say, don't force it. When you feel it, go with it. Listen to the questions that your mind is asking you. Listen to the questions your heart are asking you. And we have the ability to go online, right? We have Google, we have Facebook and Instagram. Information is out there everywhere. So, as long as their eyes and their heart and their minds are open, again, it is not difficult. The information will come to them. And as soon as they acknowledge and recognize that this is what they're searching for, they'll find themselves in an environment where that information is available. Somebody will come across their path, or they'll walk across a temple, or they'll see something that got posted, or come across an article or some information that sends their spidey senses up, and they're like, whoa, this feels like I want to know more about this. And whether it's a person that you meet that can share it with you from their heart, or like I said, a source outside of meeting a person online or a book, when you find that match, you'll know that that's what it is, and it'll begin to just open up more avenues of information for you to really delve in and to get to know yourself.
Great answer. In the DNA that we all know truth. That what's understood does not have to be explained.
Exactly. Yes.
So with finding your truth and finding your passion, how does that directly translate to business?
Sure. For me, I came from a family that was very business oriented, so I've always known that being an entrepreneur was also in my blood. Like my dad was very much work for yourself, business for yourself, create legacy, create empire for your family. So having that from a very young age, my dad had us, baking cookies and selling them in the front yard, chips, soda, candy. We had our own little store in our house. People would come from the neighborhood. We were the candy house. A lot of people that grew up with candy houses, we were the candy house, and we made cookies, and we sold chips. And then we got into food, because my dad was a chef. So we would, make food and then sell plates, and I got to watch his ministry of food, my upbringing. But in doing that, I also knew, and I was also always encouraged to do the things I was passionate about, not to waste time on dead-end jobs or sitting behind a desk if that wasn't my passion. Not to say that for some people that isn't totally their zone. I've met people along my journey who that's where they want to be, and that's where they find sanctity, and they enjoy working solo, and that's their thing. But I knew that I needed to be in a space where I could touch souls, where I could touch people's inner beings, and to make a huge difference in their lives. So I did some research through high school. I graduated from high school early, got into college early, and I did some research to figure out what is it that I really am here to do. And I took a little test online one day, just putting in all the things I was interested in, all my attributes, my skills, my qualities and talents, and life coach popped up. And so I looked into what it was to be a life coach, and started trying that on for size to see what that feels like. People always tell me their life stories the first time that they meet me. I've had really amazing and beautiful connections with people I'll never meet again. But during those moments, I recognized there has to be something sacred about this, that people choose me to be the person to download and tell all their fears, all their failures, all their successes, and their dreams and fantasies and desires. So what can I do with that so that I have a way to harness that information and make it something that they can use to continue to take the steps to live the best life that they could? And being a life coach was sort of a vessel to do that. So I started off working in childcare and being around children and families, so it wasn't hard to find clients. And but I also had a passion for food, and my parents were always do everything you want to do. You don't have to pick one thing. So maybe one thing at a time, but once you complete something and set it up so that it's self-sufficient, You want residual income? And these are conversations we had as youth, you know, in my family. So I was blessed and fortunate that my parents saw it necessary to teach us those particular type of principles, so that when it was my time to step up and decide what I wanted to do, I went to culinary school. I, you know, completed my early childhood education and development degree. You know, I wanted to pick and choose all the things I wanted to do. I got certified to be a life coach. You know, I took a bunch of different trainings just so that I could really feel like I was full of information and full of resources to give to the people I was going to serve. And then I found that something was still kind of missing, you know, and so that's when my transition to veganism was happening. I went on a journey to kind of find myself, and I took some time to really just separate myself from other people. I traveled to Colombia and spent some time there, just so that I could get away from, you know, sort of what my standard lifestyle looked like, and really put myself in another environment to find and discover other parts of myself. And that's when I started my spiritual path. So I think, again, when you open yourself up and you're ready, it's like nothing can stop you. You know, you're the only person that can get in the way. And because I had such supportive parents and a great foundation, I was able to sort of, you know, shoot through the roof, if you will, and take off to chase my dreams. And I had some failures and things that didn't go right. And that was the best part of my journey, because you learn so much. It's so humbling. So when you finally do get to a place of success, you really honor it and appreciate it, and you can have so much more compassion for the people around you. So being a life coach for me meant telling my story, including my path on veganism and spirituality. I was very much drawn to the Kemetic science. So my first love as far as religion goes is being Kemetic and living according to the Kemetic principles, living in Ma'at, and what that means for my life. And so from that space, you know, like I said, I've been able to create a foundation for all of my businesses. People expect certain qualities from me. They expect a certain approach. They expect a certain amount of care and thoughtfulness because of what I represent, what my beliefs represent. So I think for everyone, when they take the step out to go into business, they should be looking at ways to honor what they're interested in and like how that serves, but also to put a part of themselves in it. Because so what that I make pasta? What makes my pasta so amazing? One of the ingredients is love. You know, like
that's the one.
How many people have an ingredient of love in their food? I'm just saying, you know. So little things about you where people get to know your reputation, and they also get to know your energy and your vibration and your frequency. I put all of that into my food. You know, I take time to cleanse myself, which is another part of the Kemetic principles that I practice. You know, wabbing, cleansing yourself, preparing yourself for anything sacred you're gonna do. And for me, everything that I do is sacred. So if I'm making you food, I've cleansed myself, my mind is in the right place, my heart and my spirit, I'm talking to the food, I'm singing, there's music going, I've got my plants, I got my salt lamp, you know, I'm really wanting to give as much energy and positivity to this food because it's gonna nourish not only your body, but your soul and your spirit.
Beautiful, beautiful. You're nourishing me right now. And everyone who's watching this will be very well nourished. I myself was looking into trying to be a life coach because I felt I had the same kind of skill and compassion about, you know, when I speak to people, they feel up. They feel like they're ready to take on life.
Right.
And I wanted to find out a way to share it. And that's why I even started doing these interviews, because, you know, I always feel like it's, even though it is about me, it's not about me. It's about, you know, the connection with people and being able to make everyone feel and be better than what they were in that moment. So I'm 100% with you. I think it's time we can get down to cooking.
Yay!
It's time. It was an amazing, amazing interview. And we're going to change angles. See you later.
I'm going to go ahead and dump in my mushrooms first, since they're still on my tray. Oh yeah. We all love the sound of sizzle. Alright. Let's put this in the tomato. And then everybody's going in. Look at that. All the garlic and onion. Yum. Everybody's in the party. Alright. Put that up to the side. Pull the side forward. Alright, and we're just gonna get in there and give it a nice stir. Mix it all up. Let it marriage itself. All the flavors, look at that, all the colors. Too bad you can't smell through the camera lens, right? But just imagine all these flavors. And I love to use coconut oil. It really just, you know, adds so much also to the aroma and the way that it cooks. It's not a heavy oil, it's very, very light. So it still gives front and center to all the flavors. It's not overbearing. I love it. So again, we have this on high heat. Now I'm gonna just cover it and let it hang out and do its thing.